How to detect fake lean. Today's 5 minutes short. Hi, I'm Joshua Barnes, and I'm joined by Al Shalloway. And since we've covered how to detect fake Agile, we thought it would be good to share some of our thoughts around how to detect fake lean or where some of that might currently be. And I'll start off a little bit in saying some of the things when I hear people, say that, oh, yeah, we use lean or we've got a lean approach. And, you start asking, well, it doesn't seem like you're improving at all. It doesn't seem like you're learning at all. Doesn't seem like anything's visible. There's no transparency. There's no working agreements that have been agreed to that are in place. I mean, those are some of the things when I hear people talk about lean that they've got. How about the way that they're organized to reduce delays, right? Those are all just some of the basic stuff in lean. And oftentimes when people say that that's what they have a lean approach, those things aren't being done. So Al, I know that you might have some thoughts on specifics. How about you share those?
Yeah, well, let me start off with how people are talking about lean. So I got introduced to lean in the late '80s, and I've organized lean conferences. I'm kind of buddy buddies with a lot of lean thought leaders who've been around a long time, who I have deep conversations with. Actually a cousin-in-law of mine actually is a strong lean guy in textile. He runs a small textile company, and lean is very deep. I've been studying it for years, a long time. And uh, there are three ways. I want to start with there's three ways to look at lean. And I think you should, if you're in knowledge work. So everything I'm talking about here is knowledge work. Okay, not fake lean in manufacturing or things like that. Because most of the people here are building software, doing product development or knowledge work. So it's in that context. And there's three ways to think about lean. And one way I see a lot of people still is they'll refer to the Toyota production system. Well, that is very old school. Back in 2009 at the keynote to the Miami Lean Kanban conference, I gave a keynote that said Lean Beyond Toyota. And it was how do you look at the lean principles and practices that are there. Toyota maybe created lean, or what we call lean, but it's no longer the definition of lean. It's not who created it. It now stands as a body of knowledge in and of its own right. So I suggest when you hear people talking about lean in manufacturing and compare, we can't use lean because we're not building things, or we can't use lean because whatever, and they refer to the TPS, Toyota Production System, ignore those people. That's a very shallow way of looking at lean. There's another way to do it, which is you can take the Toyota production system, like what are the wastes that have been identified in the Toyota production system, and translate those directly into the wastes and software knowledge work. Well, that's better, but it's still not very deep because the physical world and manufacturing in particular is quite different than the knowledge world where it's virtual. You can't see a lot of things. So like the waste in a bumper falling off a car, well, you can see it, but in the virtual world, you don't see it. You don't see things like that. What is waste in manufacturing? Well, you've got a well-defined way of getting things forward. In the knowledge work, look, thinking and talking and planning and discussions, a lot of that's valuable. So it doesn't add to the customer. Well, it gets to be very fuzzy. I've even written posts on rethinking, eliminate waste, and last responsible moment. In the physical world, makes sense. In manufacturing, it makes sense. Even in physical product development, it makes sense to some extent. Doesn't make sense. So that's a deeper way, but it's not as good. To me, you look at what are the universal principles and motivations of lean that are underneath the Toyota production system, like systems thinking, we're learning, just in time, build quality. Those are true every place. There are a couple others. Those are true every place. Now, how do you apply those into the virtual world of knowledge work and software development? Now, that's a little harder. It takes more time. So a lot of people haven't done that deep thinking, but that's where you want to go. And those are the people you want to be listening to, the people who do that. Now, give you some specifics. People will talk about one-piece flow. Well, that makes sense in manufacturing. It doesn't really make sense in the software world. There are transaction costs, things like that. Again, talking about manufacturing, immutable practices. There are no immutable practices in lean. Not having work visible, though, is pretty much a non-lean thing. Batching of 1 or more weeks. Batching work is not lean. Not having a theory as to how it works. Not creating your own theory and say, well, things work like this. No, I'm talking about a theory you can show works In knowledge work, like delays cause waste, things like that. Like quick feedback is useful and eliminate waste, not doing continuous learning. So in a nutshell, one last thing to keep in mind, if you go through that list, you'll find that Scrum is fake lean in my mind. And I say this because back in 2007, I said Scrum could be thought of as a partial implementation of lean, and that would be useful. And nothing has really shifted about the platform or the model. They haven't added the lean thinking. They have put lean, semi-lean practices in Scrum. That's a good thing. I'm glad they are. But you could put agile practices in waterfall. It doesn't make it agile. Same way, putting semi-lean practices in Scrum doesn't make it lean. Now, why am I harping on this? I'm not trying to bash Scrum. But if you think Scrum is lean, then you might not go and look for what lean really is. As Epictetus says, you can't learn what you think you already know. No, Scrum is not lean. I'll put in the comment later a whole bunch of blogs I've written over the last 3 years on Scrum and lean. And that was a lot, actually 6 minutes, but there's a lot here. It's a lot to study. And I am a big believer in lean and flow and theory of constraints. And hope you stay safe and got value from this.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. If you have any questions, please put a comment in the post on LinkedIn, and we'll see you on our next 5 minute short.